So you mentioned the books you've written. You've authored most recently the Coffee Break Screenwriter Breaks the Rules.
Mhm.
What was the motivation behind writing it?
So the Coffee Break Screenwriter Breaks the Rules was the follow-up to the Coffee Break Screenwriter, um, because so many people think that there are these rules out there. So many screenwriters, like you have to follow all the rules, and rule following is the enemy of originality.
Right.
And so they would have these perfectly, perfectly structured. Everything looks great, but there was no soul in these projects.
Yeah.
And so I thought it would be cool to write a really quick book. It's very thin and fun, just about what is the rule? Why is it there? So everybody understands, but also how could you break it? How could you break it creatively, but also how to break it so it doesn't break bad? So all
Yeah.
of those things are in there. And like I said,
Yeah.
it's sort of like it's just a little thin book that you could go through very quickly, but it'll sort of go through all those rules you think you have to follow and
Yeah.
talk about maybe pushing against that a little bit.
Yeah. So one of the things that struck me right off is that you said that it's us writers who took on those rules and kind of made them law. And I'm like, was that writers? I guess it must be because you get certain people who are like the phrase we see can divide like so many people. Do you know what I mean? So why do you think writers have taken on rules? Is it because they're too afraid maybe to use their own voice or
Well, I think I think that when you're learning any art, right, you soak in the techniques of your teachers.
yeah,
I think that some of these teachers um sort of were put on the mountain. That's why when somebody calls me
right,
a guru, I'm like, yeah, don't call me that, you
right,
know?
yeah, yeah,
Um uh they're sort of put on a mountain and this became law. Who said? These were analysts like me, right? Who were analyzing patterns and saying,
yeah,
wow, according to these patterns, this is sort of the path of successful screenplays. And that's really cool. And then they put some some names on them. Let's call this pattern this. Let's call this pattern that. But
yeah.
it was really just a way to analyze, to help, a guide, a way of looking at things. Nobody went and you must do it this way. They said things are often done this way. This might help you if you're stuck. So I believe it was sort of all of us that went, oh, that must be the rule. It's not the rule, it's a guide. It's a plan. Hey, it's a maybe. Maybe I'll help you out, you know? So
Yeah,
don't take anything that you hear as a from a teacher or read in a book, and I'm both of those things. Don't take any of it as law. Take it as guidance.
yeah. So do you think it's now more acceptable to break the rules? What's changed since you wrote that version of the book?
I think absolutely it is. Because if you think about what everybody says they say they want a unique writing voice.
Yeah,
Now, that can often push against this conventional kind of screenwriting. And if you look at some of I mean, even look at Oscar nominated screenwriters,
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
They just write the way they feel like. Now, are they also writing really interesting stories? Yes. When those stories start to lag, do they turn? Yes. When they're turning, are those act breaks? They are. So it's not that they're going, I'm never going to do anything anybody does. They're still telling nice three-act stories often. But
yeah,
there's a certain sense of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to try that. And they commit to it. And that's often the thing that stands out for readers and ends up surprising or shocking audiences.